The great chamber of the Galactic Council was silent. It was a place built for peace, a place where words were supposed to stop wars before they began. High pillars of silver and glass rose toward the sky, and banners of 100 species hung from the walls. Normally, the chamber was filled with the gentle sound of translators, whispers, and polite discussion. But now, silence weighed heavily over every delegate present. The reason for the silence was fear. At the center of the galaxy, a new shadow had risen. The Korth Dominion, an ancient empire whose fleet stretched across the stars, had declared their plans to expand. For centuries, the Dominion had stayed within their borders, secure in their power, untouched by resistance. But now, they looked outward, and when they looked outward, they saw weakness. They saw a galaxy full of small nations, fragile alliances, and fearful leaders. They saw prey. Whispers spread from one delegation to another. Some spoke of planets already falling. Colonies burned. Ships destroyed. Entire species crushed under the iron heel of the Dominion. The council members could feel the weight of doom pressing on them, and none dared to speak too loudly. But then, from among them, one figure rose. The Terran representative stood tall, his voice calm yet firm. Humans had joined the Galactic Council only a short time ago. To most of the older species, they were still strangers, newcomers who had not yet been tested in the fires of galactic politics or war. But this human, with steady eyes and strong posture, looked at the assembly without fear. "We will not bow," he said simply. His words were clear, every syllable ringing with conviction. "Earth will fight." The silence that followed was almost painful. Delegates turned to one another, whispering in disbelief. Some laughed bitterly, others shook their heads with pity. Fight the Dominion? Was humanity mad? The Dominion had fleets older than Earth civilization. Their armies numbered in the billions. Their technology was far ahead of most species in the Council. To resist them was suicide. Yet the human did not flinch. One elder delegate, a scaled creature from the Rim, hissed softly. "You do not understand what you are saying. The Dominion is unstoppable. They have crushed worlds stronger than yours. You are children in their eyes." The human replied, "Perhaps. But children grow. And when pushed, children learn to fight. If we fall standing." The words echoed across the chamber, settling into the minds of all who listened. Some were moved, some angered, but none could ignore them. Far above, in the observation balconies, ordinary citizens of different species watched with wide eyes. Many of them had already accepted defeat in their hearts. They expected surrender, treaties, or begging for mercy. But to hear a young race speak with such defiance, it lit something inside them. A spark. Still, the council remained divided. Meetings continued long into the night. Endless debates rose and fell. Some begged for peace at any cost. Others argued for unity, for resistance. But fear drowned most voices. The Dominion's power was too vast, their cruelty too legendary. In the quiet halls outside the chamber, smaller groups gathered. A nervous merchant whispered to his companion, "These humans, they do not know what they are facing. They will be the first to burn." Another, more hopeful, replied, "Or maybe they see something we do not. Maybe they believe they can win." On Earth, meanwhile, preparations had already begun. While the council argued, factories blazed with new life. Ships were built day and night. Colonies sent resources, workers, and volunteers. In hidden places, secret projects long buried were awakened once more. The galaxy believed humanity was desperate, perhaps even foolish. But the truth was different. Humanity was not preparing to beg for survival. Humanity was preparing something else, something the rest of the galaxy could not even imagine. The Dominion watched from afar, amused at the noise of the council. To them, it did not matter what was said. Their fleets would speak louder than words. Their armies would show the truth. They saw humanity's defiance as a curiosity, nothing more. But deep in their arrogance, they overlooked the quiet fire building on Earth. They did not see the way humans looked at history, not with fear, but with determination. For humanity carried scars from countless wars on their own world. Unlike many peaceful species of the Council, humans had been forged in conflict, in struggle, in hardship. They had survived plagues, disasters, and wars that nearly destroyed them. They knew what it meant to stand at the edge of extinction. And so, when the time came, they would not tremble. They would rise. In that first council meeting, as the humans' words still lingered in the air, none of the other delegates understood what had just happened. They believed it was only a small speech, a proud but doomed declaration. But in truth, that was the moment the galaxy's future shifted. The Dominion thought they were preparing for an easy conquest. The Council thought humanity would be the first victim. But Earth had something neither of them could predict. A hidden card. A secret strength. The war had not yet begun, but its ending was already being written. And the galaxy, blind to it, sat in silence beneath the banners of peace, waiting for the storm to break. The council chamber emptied slowly, but fear did not leave with the delegates. It clung to them like a shadow, heavy on their minds and hearts. Outside, the great city around the council building felt uneasy. Lights burned through the night, but instead of joy or life, they shone on faces filled with worry. The Dominion was moving. Their fleets spread like dark storms, consuming border systems one after another. Planets that had once been alive with trade and laughter now sent desperate signals for help, or worse, went silent forever. Every day, new reports arrived of colonies falling, of resistance crushed, of entire worlds bent under the Dominion's will. The smaller nations of the galaxy lived in terror. Some leaders begged the Dominion for mercy, offering tribute and surrender. Others tried to stay hidden, hoping the storm would pass them by. But all of them carried the same weight in their hearts, the knowledge that none of them were strong enough to stand alone. In every meeting, the Council argued endlessly. Should they unite? Should they resist? Or should they accept Dominion rule and hope for survival? Voices clashed, but decisions never came. Fear strangled every word, and inaction became the only choice they made. Yet among the whispers of despair, one name began to spread: Earth. At first, it was spoken with disbelief. Humanity was new, young, and small compared to the great empires of the stars. Why would such a race be so defiant? What gave them the courage to speak so boldly when even older, stronger nations had bent their heads? In the marketplaces of alien worlds, traders whispered, "The humans are fools. They do not know the Dominion's power. Their worlds will be the first to burn." Others, quieter, replied, "Or perhaps they know something we do not. Perhaps their strength is hidden." Back on Earth, the truth was different from what the galaxy imagined. There was no panic in the streets, no hopeless despair. Instead, there was a fierce determination that burned in the hearts of the people. Factories roared with life, their smoke rising into the skies as new warships were built. Engineers worked day and night, pushing themselves to exhaustion. Colonies across the solar system sent supplies, minerals, and men. Farmers gave their harvests. Families gave their sons and daughters. Every part of human society was moving, united under one purpose: survival with dignity. But it was more than survival. Humans had decided they would not simply endure, they would fight back. In hidden bases deep under mountains, ancient projects were brought to light. Old weapons, once sealed away, were studied and prepared. Scientists worked on secret technologies, combining human imagination with alien knowledge they had gathered in the short time since joining the Council. The galaxy thought humanity was unprepared. The truth was that humanity was preparing faster than anyone could believe. Still, outside Earth, despair was winning. One evening, in a quiet hall of the Council City, two alien diplomats spoke together in hushed voices. One, a tall insectoid, clicked his mandibles nervously. "The humans will drag us all into destruction. If they resist, the Dominion will crush them, and then punish us for standing beside them." The other, a smaller mammalian creature, shook its head. "No. Listen to their words. They are not afraid. Do you not feel it? There is something different about them. They speak as if they have faced this kind of darkness before." The insectoid hissed. "They have no idea what is coming." The mammal looked out at the stars. Perhaps. Or perhaps they are the only ones who truly understand. Across the galaxy, people wondered. Why did humanity not tremble like the others? Why did their leaders speak with such calm certainty? The answer lay not in technology, not in numbers, but in history. Humanity had known endless struggle on their homeworld. They had fought wars that tore their nations apart, survived plagues that nearly ended them, endured disasters that could have broken them forever. Each trial had left scars, but those scars had also built something inside them: a stubborn strength, a refusal to break, an ability to adapt faster than any enemy could imagine. Other races had grown soft in long peace, sheltered under alliances and treaties. But humans had never known such luxury. Their history was chaos, and in chaos, they had learned to thrive. The galaxy could not see this truth yet. To them, humanity's calm looked like arrogance, their preparation like desperation. But soon, all would see the difference. For now, fear reigned. The Dominion's shadow stretched further every day. Worlds fell, one by one, and the Council did nothing. And in the silence of space, the human fleets began to move. They did not boast of their strength, nor reveal their hidden plans. They worked quietly, steadily, preparing for the storm that was coming. Humanity did not believe the war would be easy. They did not believe victory was certain. But they believed in something else. They believed that even in the darkest night, there was always a chance. And if there was even a single chance, they would fight for it with everything they had. The galaxy waited, heavy with dread. The Dominion advanced. The Council faltered. But somewhere, in the quiet fire of human determination, the future was already being written. The weight of fear crushed the galaxy. But humanity carried that weight differently. Where others bent, they straightened their backs. Where others hid, they stood. And soon, the Dominion would discover what it truly meant when Earth declared, "We will not bow." The Dominion struck without warning. At the edge of the galaxy, in the quiet border systems, people woke to skies filled with fire. The Korth fleets arrived like storms, black ships blotting out the stars. Their message was simple and cruel: surrender or burn. Some worlds surrendered at once. They lowered their defenses, opened their gates, and begged for mercy. But mercy was not in the Dominion's heart. Those who surrendered were enslaved, their resources stripped, their leaders executed. Those who resisted met a quicker fate, entire cities reduced to ash from orbital bombardments. The galaxy trembled. The Council held emergency meetings, but nothing changed. Delegates shouted, argued, and accused one another, yet no action was taken. Fear still ruled them. They waited for the storm to pass, hoping the Dominion would spare them if they remained silent. But Earth did not stay silent. Human fleets moved out from the Sol system, their steel hulls gleaming under the light of distant suns. They were not the largest fleet in the galaxy, nor the most advanced, but every ship carried determination stronger than metal. Each vessel was manned by crews who knew the cost of failure, and who were ready to pay any price to protect their home. When news spread that Earth was moving to meet the Dominion, most species reacted with disbelief. Some shook their heads sadly, certain humanity was marching to its own destruction. Others scoffed, mocking the humans for their arrogance. But on the border worlds, where fire already fell from the skies, desperate voices whispered prayers that perhaps, just perhaps, these strange humans might succeed. The first battle came above the small colony of Dayara, a peaceful planet known for its endless oceans. The Dominion fleet arrived in full force, intending to make an example of the colony. Their warships, massive and black, entered orbit like a wall of death. But before they could strike, human ships appeared. The Terran fleet was small compared to the Dominion's armada. Where the enemy brought hundreds, humanity brought only dozens. Yet there was something in the way the human ships moved, swift, sharp, and purposeful. The battle began. The Dominion expected an easy victory. They fired heavy barrages, energy beams tearing across space. But the humans did not fight like other species. They did not line up in neat formations or follow predictable tactics. Instead, they darted between enemy fire, using speed and cunning. Smaller Terran ships hurled themselves into dangerous positions, striking weak points the Dominion never expected to be targeted. They sacrificed themselves to cripple larger ships, creating openings for the rest of the fleet. Human captains made choices in seconds that Dominion commanders could not understand. Their weapons, though less advanced, were used with brutal precision. Missiles struck exactly where shields were weakest. Railguns hammered engines and weapon arrays. Every move was unexpected, every strategy new. The Dominion faltered. For the first time in centuries, their fleet was forced to retreat. On the surface of Dayara, the people watched the sky as explosions lit up the heavens. They had braced for death, but instead they saw human ships driving back the enemy. When the Dominion finally withdrew, leaving wreckage in their wake, cheers rose from every city, every shore. Word spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, the impossible had happened. The Dominion had been stopped. Not by the Council, not by the old empires, but by humanity, the youngest race of all. In the Council chamber, disbelief turned into stunned silence. Delegates struggled to understand. How could a species so new, so untested, stand against the strongest empire in the galaxy? Whispers spread among them. It was only luck, some said. The Dominion did not send their full strength. Others replied, perhaps. But luck alone cannot explain this. Humanity fights differently. They fight unpredictably. And that was the truth. The Dominion fought with pride, with rigid strategies carved in stone. Their power was vast, but their minds were chained by tradition. Humanity, on the other hand, fought with imagination. They changed tactics in seconds, adapted to every new threat, and used what little they had to strike where it mattered most. This was Earth's secret. Not stronger weapons, not larger fleets, but the wild card no one could predict. The victory at Dayara was small in numbers, but massive in meaning. For the first time, the galaxy felt something other than fear. They felt hope. On distant worlds, enslaved races whispered to themselves, if humans can resist, maybe we can too. Rebellions flickered like sparks in the dark, inspired by the courage of a single young species. But for the Dominion, humiliation turned to rage. Their pride had been wounded. To be forced back by humans, mere newcomers, was an insult they could not forgive. In their high halls, Dominion lords gathered. Their voices thundered with anger. They vowed to crush humanity completely, to make Earth an example so terrible that no one would ever dare resist them again. They did not understand. They thought they were preparing to destroy a weak species. In truth, they were preparing to face the one enemy they could never predict. The galaxy had seen the first strike. The storm was only beginning. Every report that came in told the same story. Human fleets were smaller, slower, and less armed than the Dominion. And yet, they were winning. Not by luck, not by overwhelming force, but by cunning, speed, and unpredictability. Every time the Dominion thought they had humans figured out, the humans changed tactics. Every strategy the Dominion relied on crumbled before Earth's quiet brilliance. Whispers began to spread across star systems. How could such a young species fight like this? What secret did Earth hold that no one else could see? In the council chambers, delegates debated in shock and awe. Some were furious at the humans for acting without asking permission. Others were inspired, feeling a glimmer of hope they hadn't felt in centuries. But no one truly understood. No one except the humans themselves. On Earth, in hidden research facilities and ancient vaults, the secret was known. It was not a weapon of sheer power, like a supernova bomb or a planet-crushing cannon. It was something older, something deeper. Something born from the history of a small, fragile world that had survived against impossible odds for thousands of years. Humanity's strength lay not in their ships or their guns. Their strength lay in themselves. For centuries, humans had fought wars among their own kind. They had endured famine, plagues, and disasters that could have destroyed entire civilizations. They had faced extinction over and over again, and each time, they had adapted, grown stronger, and learned. Their minds had been sharpened in the fire of struggle. Their hearts had been forged in the crucible of loss and hope. Unlike many alien species in the Council, humans had never been born into perfect peace. Most civilizations had long histories of comfort, long periods of security, and long traditions of following rules. Humanity had none of that. Their unpredictability, their creativity, and their ability to improvise had become their secret weapon. And now, against the Dominion, it was finally being revealed. Across the galaxy, speculation ran wild. Traders, journalists, and diplomats whispered to each other, "What is the secret of the humans?" Some thought it was technology, some thought it was a hidden superweapon, and some believed humans had made a deal with powers beyond understanding. But the truth was simpler, and far more terrifying for their enemies. Humans could not be predicted. The Dominion commanders could calculate every move of their opponents, until they faced the humans. Every tactic they had learned over centuries failed. Every plan collapsed. Every strike they delivered was turned back in ways they could not understand. The humans adapted, improvised, and fought back with courage and creativity. The first strike at Dayara had been only the beginning. Humans had learned to see weakness where others saw strength, to exploit opportunity where others saw disaster. They had no fear of losing, because losing had been a teacher to them, not a punishment. In secret, Earth's leaders communicated with the Council. They did not boast, nor did they reveal all their strategies. They spoke calmly, explaining that humanity did not fight with arrogance. They fought with experience, with courage, and with determination that no machine or algorithm could replicate. Yet the galaxy struggled to understand. They measured strength by fleets, weapons, and numbers. Humanity had none of the things they valued most, but they had something far more important: the will to survive, and the ability to turn weakness into power. In quiet corridors of the Dominion, anger boiled. Pride and shame clashed inside the hearts of their commanders. How dare these humans fight back? How dare they defy us so easily? Their fury blinded them to reality. The more they underestimated Earth, the stronger humans became. And that was exactly what the humans wanted. Because humans had studied the Dominion as well. They had learned their patterns, their habits, their arrogance. They did not attack blindly. They struck where the enemy least expected it, turning the Dominion's own strengths against them. Each victory, each maneuver, was designed not only to win battles but to expose the cracks in the Dominion's pride. The galaxy slowly began to see a truth it had forgotten long ago. Intelligence, creativity, and courage could be more powerful than raw force. One young species, small and untested, was teaching the galaxy a lesson that would echo for centuries. On distant worlds under Dominion control, enslaved species whispered rumors of the humans. Tales spread of their courage, their cunning, and their refusal to bow. Some began to dream of rebellion. Others began to hope that liberation might be possible after all. For the first time, the Dominion faced a reality they had not anticipated, that victory was not guaranteed. That arrogance could be their downfall. That even the mightiest empire could be undone by a species no one had taken seriously. And deep within the human fleets, in quiet control rooms and bustling hangars, the human crews continued to prepare. Every strategy, every move, was calculated not for glory, not for conquest, but for survival. Every soldier, every pilot, every scientist, understood that the future of their species depended not on power alone, but on the fire inside them. The galaxy did not understand yet. They would not understand for some time. But Earth's secret was clear, and it was unstoppable. The war had begun in the shadows, in the hearts of the humans, and it was already changing everything. Even the Dominion, mighty and proud, would soon learn that the wild card they had ignored was the most dangerous force in the galaxy, humanity itself. The Dominion's anger was like a storm. After their humiliating retreat at Dayara and other border skirmishes, the Dominion commanders were furious. They could not tolerate being outsmarted by humans, a young, untested species that had no right to stand against an empire older than most stars. Their pride demanded revenge. They gathered their fleets in secret, sending messages across the galaxy. Worlds that had already fallen were forced to supply more ships, more soldiers, more weapons. Planets that had resisted before were punished, their resources stripped to feed the coming war. The Dominion had decided that Earth must be crushed completely, and that no one else could rise to challenge them. The galaxy watched in terror. Even the Council, which had once debated endlessly, was now paralyzed by fear. How could any species survive the full might of the Dominion? How could humans, small and untested, possibly withstand the coming storm? But humanity did not flinch. In the Sol system and throughout human colonies, the fleets were ready. Ships lined up in orbital docks, engines humming with power. Pilots checked systems again and again, their eyes steady despite the knowledge of what was coming. Soldiers drilled in silence, their movements precise and practiced. Every person on Earth, every colony, every fleet, knew their role, and they accepted it without fear. Because humans had learned something the Dominion could never understand: fear does not make one weak. It can sharpen the mind, strengthen the heart, and ignite courage. The first Dominion ships entered the outer rim of human space like predators, confident and ruthless. Their firepower was overwhelming. Entire star systems could have been destroyed with a single strike. But when the first shots were fired, they found the humans had prepared more than defenses. They had strategy, imagination, and determination. The battle began. Human ships were smaller, yes, and their weapons were not as powerful. But they moved unpredictably, striking where the enemy least expected. One human destroyer would draw fire, then explode, sending debris into the path of a larger Dominion battleship, crippling its engines. Another squadron would fire from unexpected angles, disabling weapon systems with precision strikes that left Dominion commanders scrambling. For every tactic the Dominion used, humans had already anticipated an answer, a counter, a trap. They were fast, clever, and relentless. The larger fleet thought they could overwhelm Earth with numbers, but they had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt in real time. In the Council, delegates watched transmissions of the battle with disbelief. Ships exploding, Dominion forces retreating, humans standing firm, it seemed impossible. Many whispered in awe, "They are not just fighting, they are teaching us how to resist." And far beyond the battle, across worlds under Dominion control, the enslaved and oppressed began to see hope. Whispers of rebellion spread like wildfire. If humans could stand against the greatest empire in the galaxy, perhaps others could rise too. The Dominion, however, did not give up. They pressed forward, sending their most elite fleets, their largest warships, the deadliest weapons they had ever built. They intended to break humanity once and for all. They believed sheer force could crush courage and destroy hope. But humans were ready. They had studied the Dominion's patterns. They knew how the enemy thought, how the enemy acted, and how the enemy underestimated them. Every human fleet commander, every pilot, every soldier had learned to think not like their enemy, but beyond them. Where the Dominion saw strength, humans found weakness. Where the Dominion sought victory through fear, humans found opportunity through precision and courage. The battle raged for days. Star systems lit up with explosions. Entire fleets disappeared into debris fields. And yet, despite the overwhelming pressure, humans never broke. Every loss was counted, every strategy adjusted, and every victory built upon the last. Finally, the Dominion fleet began to falter. Their pride, their rigidity, their belief in absolute power became their undoing. A single unexpected maneuver by a human captain could destroy dozens of Dominion ships in moments. Their numbers were useless when faced with minds that moved faster, reacted quicker, and adapted constantly. The breaking point came near the planet Virel, a heavily fortified world the Dominion had thought would be their final strike. The Dominion launched everything they had at Virel, intending to crush the humans and their colonies. But the humans had prepared a trap. Hidden fleets emerged from warp tunnels, striking from angles no one anticipated. Entire squadrons of Dominion ships were destroyed before they could fire properly. Missiles detonated in precise patterns, crippling weapons arrays and engines. Smaller human ships darted in and out like ghosts, sabotaging the larger vessels. In hours, the once mighty fleet of the Dominion was shattered. Panic spread among their commanders. For the first time, they realized they were not in control. Humanity had turned the tables completely. And across the galaxy, hope spread like wildfire. Species long oppressed began to rise. Secret resistance cells acted openly for the first time. Even those who had doubted humanity now believed that freedom was possible. The human victory at Virel was not just a military success, it was a symbol. It showed that determination, courage, and intelligence could overcome even the most overwhelming power. The galaxy began to see what the Council had yet to fully understand: humans were not just fighters. They were a force no empire could ignore. As the Dominion retreated, licking their wounds and nursing their pride, the humans did not gloat. They regrouped, repaired, and prepared for the next challenge. Every person in the human fleets knew this war was far from over, but they also knew something every other species in the galaxy had learned too late. You cannot predict humanity. You cannot control humanity. And underestimating humanity is the first step toward your own destruction. The war had reached a turning point, and humanity stood at the center of it, not as victims, not as pawns, but as the wild card that could decide the fate of the galaxy. The galaxy began to shift. Where there had been fear, now there was hope. Where once the Dominion's shadow had stretched endlessly, small sparks of resistance began to burn. Humanity's victories were more than battles, they were a signal to every oppressed world that they were not alone. For centuries, species had lived under Dominion rule, believing that resistance was impossible. Now, they dared to dream. In the outer systems, enslaved populations whispered stories of the humans. They spoke of their courage, their cunning, and their refusal to bow. Messages and secret transmissions spread like wildfire. Rebellions ignited quietly at first, then boldly. Small fleets rose against the Dominion, attacking supply lines, liberating prisoners, and sabotaging warships. Every act of resistance was inspired by humanity's defiance, every victory a reminder that even the mightiest empire could be challenged. The Dominion, however, did not yield. They gathered their remaining strength, determined to crush the human threat before it could inspire even more uprisings. Entire fleets moved toward human space, ready to destroy any world that dared defy them. They believed sheer power would be enough to restore their dominance. Pride blinded them to the truth: the galaxy was no longer theirs to command. Humanity, however, had learned the lesson of history. They understood that true strength was not measured by numbers or weapons, but by adaptability, creativity, and courage. They did not simply fight the Dominion, they prepared for every possible scenario, anticipating their moves and turning them against them. The first major engagement of this new phase took place near the planet Arden, a strategically vital system that controlled access to several human colonies. The Dominion threw everything they had at it: massive warships, elite soldiers, and devastating energy weapons. Their intent was clear: to break human morale in one decisive strike. But the humans were ready. Hidden squadrons emerged from uncharted space, striking the Dominion's flanks. Their attacks were fast, precise, and coordinated in ways the enemy could not predict. Smaller ships sacrificed themselves to disable larger vessels, creating chaos in the Dominion ranks. Missiles struck critical points, engines were crippled, and the once confident fleet began to falter. The Dominion commanders, trained in centuries-old tactics and doctrines, could not adapt quickly enough. Their pride became their weakness. Every plan they executed was anticipated and countered. Every advantage they believed they held was neutralized by human ingenuity. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, resistance movements acted openly. Colonies that had lived in secret fear now raised their flags. Hidden armies joined human-led fleets, striking supply lines and liberating prisoners. Entire sectors that had once seemed lost were now active participants in the fight. The tide of war was turning, and humanity was at the center of it. On Earth, leaders coordinated the efforts with a calm precision. Every battle, every maneuver, every liberated world was part of a larger plan. Humans did not celebrate each victory with arrogance. They learned, adapted, and prepared for the next challenge. Every success strengthened the galaxy's resolve and demonstrated the true meaning of courage. The Dominion tried to respond. They launched attacks on multiple fronts, attempting to regain control through fear and intimidation. But every move was countered. Every advance was met with resistance. Humanity's ability to adapt and innovate was unmatched, and the Dominion's confidence began to crumble. In the council chambers, the delegates watched with awe. The species that had seemed insignificant, untested, and young was now inspiring the entire galaxy. Their defiance was reshaping alliances, emboldening the oppressed, and rewriting the rules of power. Every species that had once doubted humanity now saw them as a beacon of hope. Even the Dominion began to realize something terrifying. Their empire, vast and powerful, could be challenged. Their pride, their strict adherence to tradition, their belief in inevitable victory, all of it could not withstand the unpredictability of human strategy. They had underestimated Earth, and that miscalculation was already costing them dearly. By the time the Battle of Arden ended, the Dominion had lost nearly half their fleet in the region. They retreated in disarray, nursing their wounded pride and reconsidering their strategy. Humanity, although victorious, did not pursue them recklessly. Instead, they consolidated their gains, repaired their fleets, and prepared to support uprisings across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy dared to believe in freedom. The Dominion had once seemed unstoppable, their shadow eternal. But now, hope had returned. Resistance had grown, inspired by the courage and ingenuity of one young species, humans. In quiet moments aboard human ships, pilots and soldiers spoke softly to one another. They were not heroes, they said, they were survivors, people doing what was necessary. But even they could feel the power of what they were accomplishing. Every victory, every liberated world, was proof that courage and intelligence could overcome fear and oppression. The tide had turned. Humanity was no longer merely defending itself, they were shaping the fate of the galaxy. Where there had been despair, now there was action. Where there had been fear, now there was hope. The Dominion's empire, once thought unshakable, was cracking, and humans were at the center of that change. And somewhere deep in the hearts of both humans and oppressed species, a quiet truth took hold. When courage and determination meet strategy and intelligence, even the greatest empire can be broken. The galaxy watched and learned, one battle at a time. And humanity, the wild card, continued to rise. The Dominion was shaken to its core. They had once believed that the galaxy was theirs to command. Centuries of conquest, centuries of control, had made them confident, even arrogant. Every world had bent to their will, every species had obeyed, and every rebellion had been crushed. Yet now, one young species from a small blue world had shown them what the universe feared most: unpredictability. The human victories had not just been tactical, they had been symbolic. Every battle they won, every world they liberated, every defiance inspired across the galaxy, reminded the Dominion that power alone could not ensure obedience. Intelligence, courage, and determination were forces even they could not control. In the Dominion's capital, massive halls of black stone trembled with the anger and fear of their rulers. The High Council of the Dominion gathered, each member furious yet unable to find a solution. Ships were lost, supply lines were broken, and their carefully planned conquests had been undone again and again. One elder lord, scales glinting in the dim light, hissed through clenched teeth, "These humans, they are not like the others. They do not fear us. They adapt. They strike where we are weakest. We cannot crush them with power alone. Another, younger and fiery, roared, "Then we will destroy them entirely. Every world they touch, every fleet they command, obliterate it. Leave nothing standing." The Elder's eyes narrowed. And in doing so, what will we teach the galaxy? That even when faced with terror, hope is crushed only by fear. We have underestimated them, and the galaxy is learning from our mistakes. The Council fell silent. For the first time, the Dominion faced a dilemma it could not solve with weapons or intimidation. Their pride demanded revenge, but their logic demanded caution. Every strike carried the risk of inspiring further resistance. Every conquest might strengthen the hope they feared. And most dangerous of all, they could not predict the humans. Meanwhile, humanity continued its advance. The fleets moved with precision, not reckless pride, but deliberate calculation. Each victory was used not only to defend but to inspire. Liberated worlds joined their cause, contributing ships, soldiers, and supplies. The galaxy, once paralyzed by fear, was awakening. The Dominion commanders could feel their empire slipping. Every decision became more desperate, every maneuver riskier. Their once unassailable fleets now faced not just humans, but the spirit of an entire galaxy rising against them. In a quiet command room aboard a human flagship, Captain Aiden Torres stared at the battle maps. Lights from distant systems flickered across the walls as communications from liberated planets streamed in. Reports of uprisings, sabotage, and human-led defenses poured in from every corner. His first officer, a veteran pilot named Myra Lynn, spoke softly, "They're losing control faster than we expected. Do you think they realize this is the beginning of the end for them?" Aiden shook his head, determination shining in his eyes. "I don't think they will realize it until it's too late. Pride blinds them. And humans, we've learned how to use that." The Dominion could not predict the humans' next move. Every fleet, every strike, every defense seemed to anticipate the Dominion's arrogance. What they did not realize was that humanity's greatest strength was not in strategy alone. It was in the heart of every person willing to fight for survival, freedom, and hope. The battle for the Aralis sector became the ultimate test. It was a critical junction of space lanes, vital for both the Dominion supply chains and humanity's expanding influence. The Dominion poured every resource they had into the sector, determined to crush human resistance once and for all. But when their fleets arrived, they found human ships already in position, coordinated with liberated vessels from nearby systems. The humans did not simply attack, they anticipated, countered, and adapted to every Dominion move. Every advantage the Dominion believed they held was neutralized in minutes. Dominion commanders were forced into retreat, their pride shattered once again. Messages of defeat reached the capital, and for the first time in centuries, the Empire could not simply order the galaxy to obey. Across the council chambers, delegates of other species whispered in astonishment. The humans were not just resisting, they were reshaping the balance of power. Every victory was more than a tactical win, it was a statement. Humanity had shown the galaxy that even the mightiest empire could be challenged when courage and ingenuity met determination. Back on Earth, the leaders knew the Dominion would not surrender easily. They understood the danger was far from over. But humanity's message was clear: they would not bow, they would not flee, and they would not allow fear to dictate the future of the galaxy. The Dominion, confronted by this unbreakable spirit, had to make a choice. They could continue their relentless assault, risking complete collapse of their control across the galaxy. Or they could retreat, face the shame of defeat, and learn that even the greatest power could not dominate a species determined to survive. For the first time, a decision in the Dominion Council was not dictated by pride alone. They faced the reality that their greatest weapon, the fear of their enemies, had failed. Humanity, the wild card of the galaxy, had revealed that hope, courage, and cleverness could overcome even the most overwhelming power. And the galaxy waited, silent but aware, for what would come next. The humans had won battles, inspired revolutions, and reshaped alliances. The Dominion had been humbled, forced to reconsider its strategies and pride. And in the quiet moments aboard human ships, among liberated worlds, and in the council chambers, the truth was clear: the war was not yet over, but the end had already begun. Humanity was no longer just a young race in the galaxy. They were a force that could not be ignored, a spark of hope that could not be extinguished, and the wild card that had changed everything. The Dominion's dilemma was simple yet terrifying: surrender or face the unstoppable tide of a species that refused to bow. And humanity, patient and unwavering, waited for the final choice to be made. The galaxy held its breath. For centuries, civilizations had feared the Dominion. Their shadow had stretched across the stars, crushing entire worlds, enslaving species, and destroying hope wherever it touched. Now, the Empire faced a new reality, a force it had not anticipated. Humanity. A species young in years, small in numbers, but unmatched in courage, cunning, and adaptability. The Dominion's fleets gathered for one final assault. Their commanders were confident, certain that overwhelming power would finally crush human resistance. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier was prepared to deliver total annihilation. They believed the humans would either surrender or die. But the humans had already won, not through brute force, but through the one thing the Dominion could never predict: imagination, determination, and unity. Captain Aidan Torres stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, looking at the galaxy before him. Stars stretched infinitely, and distant flashes of light from skirmishes reflected on the ship's hull. His eyes were calm, his hands steady. "Are we ready?" asked his first officer, Myra Lynn. Aidan nodded. "We've already won. They just don't know it yet." In the Dominion capital, messages of resistance and rebellion spread like wildfire. Worlds that had lived under tyranny for centuries were rising. Systems that had once obeyed out of fear now refused. The Empire's resources were stretched thin, their pride fractured. Humanity had shown the galaxy that hope could not be destroyed, that courage could inspire, and that even the mightiest power was not absolute. When the Dominion fleet arrived in human space, they found not chaos, but preparation. Not surrender, but unity. Human ships lined the orbital paths, supported by fleets from liberated systems. Every vessel was a symbol of resistance, every crew member a testament to determination. The Dominion struck first, but their attacks were anticipated, their maneuvers countered. Human fleets moved with precision and speed, exploiting weaknesses in ways the Dominion had never imagined. Ships that seemed outnumbered acted with coordination and purpose that made their larger enemies falter. Then came the moment that would echo across the galaxy. Instead of continuing a destructive battle, the humans sent a single, simple message to the Dominion. "We will not fight you unless you continue this war. Stand down, or face the consequences of a galaxy united." The message traveled faster than any fleet. It reached enslaved worlds, council delegates, and Dominion soldiers alike. Whispers of rebellion and hope spread, weakening the enemy from within. The Dominion realized that this was no longer a simple war. It was a choice: continue fighting and risk collapse, or surrender and live with shame. High lords of the Dominion argued furiously. Some demanded battle. Others, seeing the rising rebellion, understood the truth. They could not conquer a species that inspired an entire galaxy to rise against them. Their empire, built on fear, had failed because they underestimated what courage could accomplish. In that moment, the Dominion made a decision. The fleets retreated. Their soldiers were ordered to stand down. Entire sectors that had once quaked in fear now breathed freely, liberated without a single further shot fired. The war, as the galaxy had feared, ended before it truly began. Not through overwhelming force, not through bloodshed, but through the unstoppable determination of one species that refused to bow. On Earth, celebrations were quiet but heartfelt. Not for the destruction of the enemy, but for the triumph of hope, unity, and courage. Families reunited, soldiers returned to their homes, and the galaxy began to heal. Humanity had shown that victory was possible even against overwhelming odds. Captain Torres watched the stars, thinking of all the lives lost and saved, of all the courage shown in the darkest hours. "We did what had to be done," he said softly. "Not for glory, not for pride, but to prove that fear does not have to rule the galaxy." The Council convened to acknowledge humanity's role. Older civilizations, once skeptical or fearful, now looked with respect, awe, and gratitude. A new alliance formed, one not of dominance, but of mutual support, inspired by the young humans who had dared to stand. And the Dominion. They had learned a lesson that would echo for generations. No empire is too powerful to fail if it underestimates the heart and mind of those it seeks to conquer. For humans, the war had ended not with a grand battle, but with a message: courage, unity, and ingenuity are forces stronger than any weapon. The galaxy had been reminded that even the smallest, youngest, and least expected species could shape the fate of millions. Stars shone brighter that night. Across countless worlds, beings looked up and felt hope again. Humanity had not only survived, they had inspired an entire galaxy to believe in freedom, in resilience, and in the power of the human spirit. And somewhere among the stars, in the quiet hum of human ships returning home, one thought remained clear. The war ended before it began. Because humanity was never meant to lose. The wild card of the galaxy had played its hand, and it had won, not with fire, not with fear, but with courage, heart, and unwavering determination. The galaxy would never forget the lesson. When humans stand, the impossible becomes possible. And that was only the beginning.